Yes, right where you left it.
How are you?
Next time, next time I'm gonna hide it from you. We did. You're right.
Oh, thank you.
This one, I want you, these two, I have to take a look and just see exactly what they are.
Okay.
And then that one, she never signed for it.
Okay.
Go figure.
Yeah. How long will it be? A short meeting?
I hope so.
My wife keeps calling and saying what time's dinner, what time's dinner.
You text? Hello. Coming to the meeting? Bye. Do I start it?
Is it 6?
Give him a couple minutes?
Jeff, would
Julie?
Julie take over?
Yes.
I texted him too. Okay, all right. Well, we're going to call the meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Silent prayer. He's coming, okay. Am I okay just to go until he gets here? or do we
Yes.
pause? Okay. Call the roll?
Ms. Benitez?
Yes. Present.
Mr. Axiotis? Ms. Persino?
Here.
Mr. Rufner?
Present.
Ms. Stempert?
Here. Changes to tonight's agenda.
I would like to make a motion to excuse Mr. Axiotis from the meeting tonight. He did
Second.
call and message, letting us know he was not going to be able to come in.
Second. You call the roll for that?
Ms. Stempert?
Yes.
Ms. Benitez?
Yes.
Ms. Persino?
Yes.
Mr. Rufner?
Yes.
Then we have special presentations by Mr. Housley, the discussion regarding job advertisement and job description.
Yes. So I did not have the existing job description for finance director for the city of Newton Falls when I put this together. I believe it was created sometime in 2000. I've seen modified versions of it dated 2000 in PDF, but they've been modified. So in order to, I couldn't bring that or use that, display it in confidence in any way unless I could get the original attached to that ordinance back in 2000. So, but I do believe there's one out there. Kind of built this from scratch. How I built it was I went out to one of the professional associations that I'm a member of, the Ohio Association of Public Treasurers, and they have a ton of numerous job description ads out there for finance directors and assistants and other types of municipal individuals needed. And I just kind of read through them and tried to find one that matched kind of what how I perceive, based on a little over 2 years that I've been here, that finance role in that office has functioned while I've been there and should function into the future, contingent obviously upon any changes or and council's final approval with this, because I do think this needs to be approved by legislation. So with that being said, I was asked by Council Rufner to prepare an ad, which I did prepare the ad to go along with this job description, which the ad's not included here, but there is an ad that goes along with this. And I guess it is, actually it is. It's on
Back of the first page.
So I presume that you've all read this. So do you want me to read through this line by line, or can we just have some general discussion on it? You know, the way that it's signed off on by the mayor, I thought that was the most appropriate way to do that. And when you get involved with so if you're happy with the ad, I'm just going to move on. When you look at the actual position description itself, I think maybe the leading sentence where it says Director of Finance, the director is part of the administrative team of the Village of Newton Falls and has general charge of the administration of the financial affairs of the village, and it's appointed by village council and subject to council's approval. You know, I believe that everybody's in agreement with that. That's my understanding of how this role should be. I think by charter, period. If there's any conflicting ordinance prior to me being here that I haven't read, you know, this hasn't been reflective of that, but I wouldn't have knowledge of that. So we get into these 10 descriptions here of what happens in my role. I think it's pretty spot on. You know, I assist the manager in preparing and submitting the current income and expense estimates for the budget. I mean, that's exactly how it happens. You know, I produce like a template for the budget, but ultimately at the end of the day, you know, the city manager has the final say in what comes before council, right? So, but I aid in that process. Then council has final say in what they decide the appropriation should be, but that's the way the process works. The city manager doesn't produce that template. I produce that template. So I think one is super accurate. Two, supervise and be responsible for the fees and revenues. I mean, your finance director doesn't key that information in. He's there for questions. He spot checks things to make sure they're being posted to the right account. Same thing with responsibility over disbursements, you know, supervise, that type of stuff. And verify appropriations don't exceed resources. And it's that resource element that is a component everybody really needs to be knowledgeable. It's not just, did you get the appropriations approved by council, but it's, are these appropriations greater than what you had available to spend? That's, I think, something just to keep in the back of your mind, because in future discussions, by the end of March, I think we're going to have some additional discussions regarding some of the reports that you're going to get. And you need to keep that component in mind. 4, maintain general accounting system for the village, you know, keep accounts and exercise budgetary control. And that's a big part of what happens in there. Usually if there's some type of new activity that occurs, I'm the person that gets asked those types of questions. Once that account's created and I give that direction, then whomever I've given that direction to, you know, they follow that direction until something else changes. But it's not something that should be expected of an assistant. It's something that should be expected of your finance director to make those decisions. You know, submit these reports. This is something that I added myself. You know, I think that's an important function of my office, is to make statement of cash position, make the, let's see, what page? You know, the statement of cash position, the bank report. Bank report's really important. Expense report, expense audit trail, revenue audit trail. I think having those 4 reports, produced timely. I mean, as soon as possible, immediately after month end, unless they can justify a reason. There really shouldn't be any reason to take 2 weeks to close a month. I mean, ever since I've been here, after I got caught up, I think we've been closing within 3 business days, probably 2 business days of month end. That should be the process, because you should be doing these types, mental reconciliations or these checks and balances throughout the entire month to kind of keep yourself ready to close. And I think putting those reports out on the webpage is essential for everybody. Everybody gets them in their email, and you got to go dig them up. But, maybe it's kind of nice just to look under finance department, maybe look back a few months and look at an older report or look at December. So I think that's an important function of my department, and, that should rest on the finance director to make sure that those reports are distributed to all of you persons and the residents timely. Prepare and deliver to Village Council as of the end of the fiscal year a complete financial statement and report. Well, I have 60 days to turn it into the state auditor's office, and I did complete it. It's done on February 29th, and I even ran an ad that it's available. Council gives me another 30 days to get it to you, which is good. I think you give all the departments to the end of March to get you that report. But I do have the regulatory basis financial statements, an unaudited version of them available for 2023. Anybody can ask me for it now. It was actually submitted by our IPAs, our independent accountants, just within the last week or so. Have custody of all the public funds belonging to or under the control of the village or any office? Yes, of course. Supervise and train necessary staff of income tax, finance, and utilities regarding electric, water, sewer, and solid waste. I mean, I've asked them all, and I've made them all aware that, I'd like them to be involved with training, to get out there and find some training for themselves that will pay for it. It should be encouraged. It empowers your employees. You want them to be good at their job. You want everyone around you to be good and knowledgeable of what they do. And then perform any other duties as assigned. Now, that can be by ordinance, by charter. There's only 10 items on there. When I think about, in reality, how much knowledge I have to have about so many things, obviously, it's a lot more than 10. There's some other, maybe 1 or 2 other items I don't think need to be included in this, but I'll mention them. I have a huge cash management or cash flow management responsibility that I do. I also have a lot with the treasury investments that I get involved with. None of that's in here. You could probably put a blurb in there. When you get down to the qualifications, the director should have a strong background in accounting, which I agree, accounting is a primary, and a significant experience in public entity sector of accounting. Public entity is a lot different than the private world. The private world can run everything out of a, if you got a single business, you can run it all through QuickBooks in a single account. Well, if you look at your statement of cash position, each one of those funds is like its own business. It has its own set of rules. It's a lot of operations to run. So, governments are just so much more different, and we're subject to such a greater, bureaucracy of red tape and just guidance and guidelines and regulations on everything. So it is kind of a special type of person that you need. I have seen some individuals at my level for budgets this size. We need to keep all that in mind, because there's probably plenty of villages in some parts of Ohio that might have a budget of $120,000 bucks. We've got a $20 million budget here. So, you know, you need to bring someone in capable of managing that type of volume and these types of complexities, which not only do you own the water lines, you own the water treatment facilities. Not only do you own the sewer lines, but you own the sewage treatment facilities. Those are enormous complexities with all types of regulations and account for 5 times your revenue that you collect in your general fund. I mean, so when you take a look at the cost allocations that we're going to get into next, you got to really think about why is 70 to 80% of the cost being moved out or being reallocated to those funds? Well, a lot of my effort goes to the activity being facilitated through those enterprises. The only thing that I would probably add to this would be to, if I get this right, I do think that it should probably be stated that someone like me should have Microsoft Office experience. I mean, does anybody else have any questions?
Good. As far as the advertisement goes, I really have no major concerns or issues with it. However, I do, specifying the salary in there, I think is better left if you say salary is based upon experience, or I hate to paint ourselves into a picture or into a corner and specify it's going to be this much. Paint ourselves into that picture, because you're going to have people in there that are going to automatically assume, well, I'm worth that. But I think that should be left for negotiation, whether it be lower or higher, based on experience, based on background criteria, not just carte blanche, hey, by the way, you got the job, here it is. We should have some kind of like a negotiation or criteria for the salary.
I mean, it's whatever all of you collectively decide, but, you know, I think something to take into consideration, some people might not want to apply at all simply because they think you're trying to lowball them by not putting what you should know what you think that position's worth. Mm-hmm. And I think it creates a wrong first impression, but there's 2 sides. It's whatever you all decide. I mean, we could take it out of there. You kind of, you might attract somebody with only 3 years experience by putting that in there that might be good for this job, right? But if you take that out, you might not attract that person with only 3 years experience, because you do mention the 72.5, and you do say you're fine if they have 3 years experience. So whatever you all decided, we could take it out, we could leave it in, just decide what you want to do.
I have an address. The 72.5 written in there was something that I was going to question too. I feel like I would rather have it as negotiating, you know, the ability to negotiate that than to have it solid there.
Okay.
So I'm kind of piggybacking with Rufner on that one. That was something I didn't like.
Everybody else in agreement with just taking it out? You guys want to make any remarks on it? Okay, then I'm going to just take it out. Let's look at it. So the salary is, what should we say here?
Open.
Mr. Rufner?
Dependent upon experience.
Dependent upon experience
Negotiable. Something like
or
that,
negotiable upon experience?
based on experience.
I like the word negotiable.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying is I don't want, you know, someone that just got out of school, just got their diploma and the ink's not even dry yet going, I got 62.5. And, you know, there's a reality check that comes into play based on the description of the duties that go with this position.
Okay.
So,
All right, I'll replace that with negotiable. How about where I mentioned, again, there's only so much, what I don't think you want to do is potentially mislead someone. I think it is, I think they really should have, and I think I should add it under qualifications, that they should have, they should be proficient, should be the word, at Microsoft Office. I think that's a necessity in my job, because you capture a lot of stuff out of the system, and you build a lot of reports in that, and I don't think they could do my job if they're not. Is that okay to put in there?
Honestly, whatever systems or software that we have, you know, if you can add that in there, it would narrow the field or make it easier to.
Okay, so we could say proficient at Microsoft Office, and then I'd then possibly add, Mike, you got any thoughts on this? What else would you think we should?
One other thing, if I may, would be a couple things. One would be knowledgeable, I'd like to say proficient, but at least knowledgeable of the eGov, which is our system that we use. I don't think we'd want anybody to come in and have to start from scratch there. I've got a couple notes on this in my report. If I may, I could just touch on, and it's a discussion that you as a council may want to have. I believe that this position could be fulfilled with a qualified person, potentially part-time, with the right candidate being available, at least 24 to 30 hours a week, something along those lines. I think you could set a salary range to pay them decently, but yet be fiscally responsible, and at least look at the possibility of the part-time. The benefits package alone. I think you might find a very qualified candidate that is retired and looking for something to keep busy, that type of candidate, somebody along those lines. Again, may not, but I think it's something that you as a group should at least consider, discuss, just looking at the whole picture after some of the discussions that we've had as far as what a benefits package costs in whole, added to the salary. So
we maybe open the door also for part-time. Encourage anyone that potentially would be interested in applying for the job, even for part-time hours, to still apply. I'll work on the language for that. I don't know if we want to draft it up here or not, but how about I try to work up some language with this for that and get it off the mic. Right? The Mike you can take a look at it and finesse it, and once you're fine with it, maybe just
and then I can make
send
sure
it off
everybody
to
sees it.
council. And then once everybody's okay with everything, get it off the mic to get some of the advertisements run. So I'll try to get that taken care of this week for you. So some part-time language. Okay, that's all I have to say about the,
Mr. Housley,
yes,
if I may, before you continue.
sure.
Second part of that requirement to have it at this meeting was costing, what it would cost to advertise. Mr. Colton, did you find anything?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a message prepared to send to council, and in summary, there are your standard places where you can post this, the Ohio Government Finance Officers Association. It can be posted for free. You can post it on a place called governmentjobs.com, which is approximately $200 for one post that lasts 60 days, or for a little over $600, $629, you can have 5 posts, which you won't need, but it's for an unlimited time period. Indeed, if you sponsor the ad, you can do free job postings on Indeed, but you can also accumulate a higher cost by sponsoring the ad, which by my estimate may fall into the range of about $1,000 a month. And I'm waiting for a phone call back from LinkedIn Talent Solutions. I'm awaiting a demo and pricing for that part of LinkedIn. I know that was an interest as well. What I don't know is if Mr. Housley has other suggested sources
No,
other than those.
May I have an address?
Yes, please.
The first two that you said, what were those again?
The Ohio Government Finance Officers Association, that can be a free posting. And another website called governmentjobs.com, which contains a lot of postings similar to this one. That's more than just, in this area. I think it's probably nationally.
I don't, is that Ohio Jobs? I know there's
I think
Ohio
it is.
Jobs too.
Yeah. And so that one, for a couple $100, you can get a posting.
Pat, do you have something?
Weren't we talking about a finance director / clerk, or are we just doing the finance director? I mean, I thought we talked about it before to get both finance director / clerk, so someone would be in the building 5 days a week.
Right.
After some review and some research, the finance directors and the clerk's job are clearly spelled out in the charter. And those positions that are clearly spelled out like that in the charter can't be combined.
Oh, okay, all right, because I know we talked about it.
Right.
All right, thank you, Mike.
Did we look at the Ohio Municipal League? Don't they post up?
Oh, yes, well, the Municipal Finance Officers Association, is that what you said? I think it's the same. The OML and the MFOA, I think they all.
They're all
use-
connected.
They use the same platforms. I mean, we've tried the Ohio Association of Public Treasurers and had no luck in the past. That's why I just didn't bring that back up.
Yeah.
There's also the Ohio GFOA, Governmental Finance Officers Association.
That's the free one.
That's the free one too.
Yeah.
But we did that before too, and nobody, I don't know if we did the OML. Do them all again. I would like to encourage spending $1,000, for a month. It's not too much to spend if it gets you the person you're looking for, too, for Indeed. I don't think I think what happens over time, the interest fades a little bit. So I think if you're going to strike it trying to find someone to replace me, I think you should also just spend the extra $1,000 and do it all simultaneously and get something on Indeed. I don't know about LinkedIn. I don't know how that works, but possibly, did you check out LinkedIn?
Yeah, I'm waiting a call from their talent source. It's a special, you'd have to have a membership for it, and it would require a little bit of a demo. But we can post on all those other places that I mentioned, and then also, the Ohio Association of Public Treasurers. That's an option for us as well. I believe we already have a membership to that organization, so we can post on their website.
I don't know if you do. I don't know if
think-
Newton Falls does.
Oh, I think.
I know I do, but I
When
know,
I contacted them, I think that
okay.
Pam
The-
Howland has.
Oh, does she? Okay, good. All right. Any objections to us just going ahead and maybe moving forward with LinkedIn if it's $1,000 a month?
Well, for clarification, you did say that was for $1,000, that it was 5 advertisements?
That was so that one is on governmentjobs.com.
Okay.
Indeed, if we use Indeed, we have an Indeed account. We can sponsor the job, which assigns a budget to it, and then they charge you X number of dollars per applicant or per day. My estimate was that it could grow to $1,000 a month.
So if you assign a budget to it, you can put $1,000 on, right? And
Correct.
stop it. We can stop it at
So
1,000.
you can do a not to exceed type of amount on it.
Okay.
Any objections? None? Okay. Okay, so I'll work on making these edits. I'll have you something by tomorrow morning. Okay, and he can move forward with it. Is it okay, Mr. Mayor, to move on to the next?
Yes, please.
All right, the next discussion that I wanted to have with you, and, you know, I'll preface it as, I would have liked to have this to you during 2022, 23, and 24. You know, but so much is just even happening with me, of trying to obtain the knowledge of this community in September of 21 when I showed up, and get things closed, and starting 2022. You know, there's this process I went through. I kind of inherited the inheritance cost, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of another calculation, but I kind of inherited the cost allocation calculation in 21, and that was a continuation. Followed those procedures that were being followed in 21 into 22, because so much was happening. Just getting 21 closed in time and a budget prepared to open up 2022 time, a lot was happening very quickly. So I want to give that context. But during later into 2022, possibly, actually I think it might have been early, as maybe somewhere prior to the end of March in 2023, I'm trying to collect all the materials that I can through the city manager's office and the independent contractor that was used, and even obtaining the legislation I needed was a very difficult process. You know, that being said, you know, I talked to Brad a little bit about it. I mean, all these numbers have been put in front of you in appropriations, but I think we need to talk about the percentage, because all of you have been here a shorter period of time than even I. And it's been a huge learning curve for even just myself. And not everybody just, I know that many of you have been a participant at least on the floor probably, or maybe you've attended the meetings, but it just doesn't mean that you have pretty good knowledge of this. And I would encourage that this be put in front of council every single year moving forward, so that you understand the mechanics, at least have a small discussion on it. Because by putting it in front of you all every single year, you kind of retain that institutional knowledge that you might lose with attrition. You know, like when I passed out indexes that were highlighted, and one of the steps I go through to kind of ensure continuation of some things is I'll, you know, highlight the stuff that I know that I should be thinking about next year by looking at last year. So I would encourage this every year, and I'm encouraging this year. And I want to point some of these relationships out and kind of explain them and why they happen the way they happen. So Exhibit A, which is in everyone's packet. It's online for those that are viewing externally. I want to point out that in 2022, under the city manager, we'll start with the column to the far right, that one way to look at this is if we were to, we'll just use $1 as a reference point. The general means general fund or 100 fund, okay? It's not the general checking account, it's the general fund on the statement of cash position. And the water plant, the water distribution, and the sewer and the electric, these are all on the statement of cash position and in your revenue and expense account. So these are all departments. So, and the water plant and the water distribution and the sewer and the electric, those are all utilities. And so when you look at Exhibit A and it says general, what it's saying here, for example, in 2022, that for the city manager of $1 spent, 38 cents, I'm going to round, okay, 38 cents, 38% or 38 cents of that dollar stayed in the general fund, and that the difference of all the departments, which is 62%, they're all broke out underneath it, those costs get charged off to the utility funds. And you can see how these percentages are changing every year, And, based on the legislation that I've included in this packet for you to read, it's supposed to update it every year. And that's why these change every year. I go through this evaluation process of criteria. And one of those criteria is full-time employees. And it has a huge impact on how these costs are assigned to the general fund versus the enterprise fund. So, and the reason why I want to bring this point to your attention is at some point in time in the future, if you are able to reconstruct your own police department, and you start adding all these full-time employees back into the general fund, it's going to be a perfectly normal thing to see these percentages get a little bit higher again, because these percentages are about effort. I don't want to get too technical, but it's like, where does the administration spend its effort? And if you have more full-time employees in the general fund, there's a lot more effort that's applied towards their compensation and all the other operating expenditures that they need to manage their department and stuff. So what you're essentially seeing here is a decline in full-time employees is having the main impact on these percentages in the different departments. That's why they're declining in the way they are. And then another component that I look at is one of the reasons why I had those indexes. I ask for them from Mike every year. So I look at each and every individual legislation, and I make a determination of how do I assign it. And then there's a statistical calculation on that that kind of applies how the effort for the legislation is distributed to all the departments. And all of that goes into these cost allocations. And I think you need to see it every year and understand it. And I think when you get into 2015-15, which is a couple of pages back, one of the versions that I got originally is not really legible, but it had signatures on it. So I just kind of wanted to have a record of it. This other one doesn't have signatures on it, kind of what I've gotten used to around here. But you can read it. So I'm just going to talk about this, even though it doesn't look official, but it is official, I believe. It specifically says in here, general fund, water fund, sewer fund, electric fund. So it tells me what funds to apply these to. And being new, like all of you are, and this being back to 2015, maybe you were a participant in 15, maybe you weren't, so maybe this is new to you. But that's why I assign it to the funds that I assign it to. It's based on the previous year's statistical data. So I update it every year. That's why you see the changes every single year. It takes me back to 2007. And one of the things I realized when I look at 15, and I've seen nothing since, is that they included the cost allocations at that time. And I think it's a good thing to do. And I would recommend that you continue. I'd recommend that, yes, that you agree I should put some legislation in front of you, and that, hopefully that would be continued into the future. But I also want to point out 2007-22. Again, I make a request, given the legislation I'm given. I mean, if I'm missing some components, not a lot of your legislation is digitized here, so people have to manually go through and read indexes to do the best they can find it. And when I try to go to your codified ordinances, which are supposed to enable the continuation of institutional knowledge also, there's a lot of missing parts in there that I couldn't find, some things I tried to research. But I just want to point out the change, and maybe Mike can chime in on this once I get there. Well, if you look at 2007.22 ordinance, you'll notice down in section 1C, it was all kind of just a flat distribution. Well, the auditors have come in here, and they didn't agree with that. They wanted us to change it. Mike, can you add anything to this? Because you were around at that time.
Yes, what they determined was that the there was too much charge-offs to the utilities at the time for the services that the administrative staffs were providing, all the way down from, including the police department and the finance, all the way down. So they had set in place that the city could not be charging off as much as they were against the utilities, so.
Okay, may I pick up? So, but I want to point out, there's too much charge-off. So let's really go back to 2007. And what they said was too much of a charge-off. They said the general fund retaining 25% of the costs and sending out 75% of the costs was too much charge-off. Well, but they also designed a plan, to determine based on checks issued, ordinances, where the effort goes. And I want you to notice, in 2022, you could see that the charge-off for 2022, the general fund kept 38%, so that charge-off would be like 62%. It's that charge-off to the enterprise funds, it's that difference. And you can kind of see how the change was in place. But now if you get back into 2024, where we are, you're starting to see we're pretty close to that 25%. You get into finance, we're at 20. But I want you to know, that's okay. It's based on a plan and formulas and working the way it's supposed to work that moves and changes. And it will if you bring new full-time employees in for different functions here. And however, this is very interesting, depending on your source of funding, say if the community does eventually come around to maybe some different sources of funding that you're looking at, and if that funding doesn't have to be maintained in the general fund, and those full-time employees are outside the general fund, it's not going to have as huge of an impact. So, the intent here was to show you this, to see if anybody would be opposed to me producing legislation for this exhibit. I've got the original legislation. It just needs tweaked a little bit. I think I just need to change the year on it, is all I need to do. The attorney's already looked at it and said he's okay with the form. Anybody opposed to me bringing something before you? And is my first question, but before we get there, does anybody have any questions or any discussionary points on this? No? Then anybody be opposed to me bringing some legislation in front of you all? Okay, all right, then I'll go ahead. So, Mr. Mayor, I'm done with my presentations for tonight. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to public comments, which are agenda items only, and we're going to limit to 3 minutes.
Hi, it's Anna Eby, 50 West 9th Street. My comment is for the public. I've spoken to many residents, and this isn't just coming from me, it's coming from a lot of them. And they've all agreed that we don't like the change in your agenda. You've put your meeting first instead of last. And what that does, it's not for the public, it's for you. If this is a public meeting and you want the public to attend, either change the time of your meeting so the public can come in at the right time instead of sitting here for 3 hours waiting on you, or put it back the way it was. You're going to be here that length of time anyway. And maybe, just maybe, if it is at the end, it won't last 3 hours. It is a public meeting, and I'm just asking you to please put your executive sessions back to the way they were, so people don't have to sit here and wait on you for 3 hours. Thank you.
Rick Erlin, 1009, Wood Glen, I just had one question in reference to the forensic audit that you were looking to do. If I remember right, there was a state audit that had been done, and I think they were prepared or being prepared to issue that as results, and I couldn't find anywhere that the results were issued from the state audit. I know they were finishing up, I couldn't find it on anywhere, but the state did an audit, and I want to know what the results of that audit was. And I can't seem to phrase my public record requests correctly to get that material, and I was wondering whether the state came through with and finished their audit up, or whether they're continuing to do their audit. That is a question I think everyone wants to answer, wants to know the answer to, and that is, what'd the audit have to say? The state did an audit, what'd they have to say? So I think it's important that we find that out, if you don't already know it. Thank you.
We have anybody else? All right, we have a motion to recess into executive session. And the motion is to enter into an executive session for the purpose of interviewing candidates for the Treasury Investment Board and discussing compensation of a public employee.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Rufner and Ms. Stimpert? Ms. Stimpert?
Yes.
Mr. Rufner?
Yes.
Ms. Persino?
Yes.
Ms. Benitez?
Yes.
6:47. Mike, can you? Yep.
be so great.
I make a motion to return out of executive session.
I second it.
Ms. Stimpert, Ms. Benitez, and we'll start Ms. Persino,
Yes.
Mr. Rufner,
Yes?
Ms. Stimpert,
Yes.
Ms. Benitez.
Yes. All right. Okay, I'll make a motion to appoint John Richards to the advisory board, investment advisory board.
I will second.
Stimpert. Discussion?
Any discussion, Mayor?
I'll just say, Mr. Richards had served on 2 of our charter reviews, and he always digs in, finds the information, you know, speaks with the facts and really learns what he needs to know before he speaks and educates people on the decisions and the things they're doing. So I appreciate that, and I think he'd be a great asset to the Treasury Investment Board.
I was impressed with Mr. Richards when I first started running for council because he answered my questions. He was very thorough with everything on the charter. I mean, he would put the old charter wording up, and then he would say what the new charter was. And like I say, we went through every single charter minister, and I was very impressed with that.
Ms. Persino,
Yes.
Mr. Rufner,
Yes.
Ms. Stimpert,
Yes.
Ms. Benitez.
Yes.
Pass 4-0.
And I would like to make a motion to appoint Miss Samantha Kropp to the Treasury Investment Board.
I will second that.
Discussion.
Again, when we went through the interviews, I think she offered a very good, very solid explanation for, her worth or what she would bring to the table towards that committee. I think she has a good understanding of the committee and the role in which it actually plays. So I honestly, I think she would be a good candidate for the position.
I was also impressed with his knowledge and what he brought to the table.
Her? Yes, Miss Kropp, not Mr. Kropp. You said he?
I'm sorry. You're Mrs. Okay. Sorry.
Just making sure we're on the same page. Same person.
Roll.
Please.
Ms. Benitez,
Yes.
Ms. Persino,
Yes.
Mr. Rufner,
Yes.
Ms. Stimpert.
Yes.
All right, we'll move on to reports. I have no reports. Ms. Benitez, do you have anything?
Well, Mrs. Persino and myself were at the, talking about the bringing back the police. It was a 2-hour meeting. It was rather informative, and the 2 people that were from the public, so to speak, were very interested in bringing the police back, and they had some really good information that, as a person that was not, how shall I say it, not involved with the police as the running of the police department, and I appreciated their knowledge, and we're going to have another meeting, April, what, when?
April 4th.
April 4th. That's all I have.
Ms. Julie, do you have anything?
shoot, forgot to get the date. Hold on. Next fire board meeting will be the 19th, March 19th at 6 o'clock at the township building. I have a nice little recognition here that Mr. Novotny will get framed up for us. It's the General Assembly, the State of Ohio, the House of Representatives, on behalf of the 64th House District of the State of Ohio. I'm pleased to congratulate the City of Newton Falls on the occasion of the ribbon cutting and grand reopening of the Newton Falls Covered Bridge on February 17th, 2024. And this is signed by Nicholas S. Santucci, State Representative, Ohio's 64th House District. I think that's very nice to be acknowledged with that. And we'll get that, I'd like to get framed. Other than that, I don't have anything. I'll let Mrs. Persino do the committee.
Please.
Pardon? For the dates and stuff for the activities.
Oh, okay. March 11th, no, that's wrong. March 30th is the Easter egg hunt at Arlington Field. We're also looking into a solar eclipse event on April 8th. I'm asking the public to come out March 11th at 6 o'clock to the Community Service and Activities meeting. So you can give us some thoughts and ideas for that solar event. People have asked to make donations. You can make donations to Tiny Tots, Newton Falls School, or you can reach out to Mrs. Julie Lemon. There was something else. Oh, like Mrs. Benita said, we had our first police service ad hoc committee. The meeting was very good, very informative. We got to hear both sides for police or against bringing them back and why. So I kind of like that because you got both sides discussing and debating. And I also heard from one of my Ward 3 residents about some ideas that he had for a bike path, and I'm really looking forward to meeting up with him just so we can discuss it. And, I'm really interested to hear his thoughts on it. And that's all I have.
All right, we had a planning and zoning meeting last night. Actually went really well. No real new business, but there was a lot of discussion revolving around current situations and circumstances in the community. We received a report from the zoning inspector as far as we're already rolling into that time of the season, so we're already getting the notices, the complaints and whatnot, and the actions he's taking forth to follow up on it. Also, additionally, it was recommended to the board to pull out and dust off the 2014 comprehensive plan and actually start looking at that, since it is so dated and it encompasses the entire community. I mean, fence line to fence line, if you want to call it. But there's been actions taken to update some aspects of it, but it was never incorporated into the standing document. So what they're doing is they're going to go back and start looking at it. There's a wealth, if anybody's not seen it, there's a wealth of knowledge in it. Historical background, geological surveys, water depth reports, you name it, all inclusive in that report, which 90% of that won't change. But the current land use, proposed land use, future land use, zoning capacities and whatnot, those could potentially change, and that's what we're going to need to have moving forward. So we know what land we do have available in what zoning category and what size for whatever either business coming in or business wanting to develop or whatever we have. So I've kind of pushed the button a little bit to get that started. So we are going to start looking at that and see what we can do with the bringing it more up to speed. So it's going to be a time-consuming process, but it is a good document to have. It's supposed to be a living document. Living, breathing, that's what we work by. And unfortunately, it's been in a shelf since 2014. So we're fixing that. So that's all I've got from planning and zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Riffner. Mr. Housley, do you have anything else to?
Just, one thing, essentially right now, we had a work session on February 28th with council. I found that to be productive and refreshing, and, we kind of evolved from that work session to at least the presentation for the job description. So I think it's good, that it gives everybody an opportunity to interact and have a better knowledge before something's put in front of you all on a council floor. So I think it would be good if we had more of those in the future over different subject matters. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, Mr. Olympian, do you have anything?
Nothing tonight, sir.
Mr. City Manager, do you have anything?
Oh, sure. Myself, the finance director, the electric superintendent, and the utilities administrator, we met with the president and controller for Venture Plastics. They had some questions on some different things concerning the agreement that had been signed with the city and some of the things within that. As of right now, we're doing some research. All of the parties basically that were involved in that agreement are no longer here. So we're all having to just do some research. So I'm doing some research across the board. We are, and I'll be able to report on that moving forward as we get that. But it was a good meeting to sit down with them, discuss some things. So I think that went well. I was contacted by Zip City Riders, referenced the car show, bike show weekend, asking about the availability of water for the vendors that will be uptown. I've spoken with Ken Bodner, Superintendent of Water Distribution. We will make sure that they are set up and have the water access that they need. So we've got that taken care of. I contacted the Trumbull County building inspectors. A couple of things I needed and wanted to do. One was to help with our fire inspection that we had here on this building. And if you didn't see when you came in, you can see it when you go out. This room, as well as the great room out there, now have posted occupancies, which is something that was lacking. So we now know exactly how many people can be in either one of these rooms. The occupancy for this room is 200 people. The occupancy for the room out there is 118. So moving forward, that's just food for thought for anything that may come forward, but it was something that needed to be done. Second part of that is everything going on with everything that is, everything that isn't, the community center. I had questions, reference, and trying to bring myself up to speed, so I had a good conversation with the head of the department down there on the status of the building, things that they saw that need done, and some different items like that. So that was just more to bring myself up to speed, so that moving forward, I know the status of the actual building and what the county is looking for with however things move with the community center. I have I did adjust the zoning department hours. Somewhere along the line, we had strayed away, and we were getting a lot more hours in that department than should have been. So right now, the zoning office is open Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8 to 4, which is the normal business hours of this building on those days. With that being said, as we get into spring and summer, I will monitor the hours. I will monitor if we're missing a need to service the residents, if residents are needing to get in. Days, hours, may increase those hours a little bit, not by a whole lot, but may have to change the days for accessibility, more days of the week. So I will continue to monitor that. Working with Howland Alarm Systems, again, part of the fire inspection and the alarm system here in the building, getting it upgraded to where it needs to be. Actually, the quote came in late Friday, actually after I had put the report together. The base quote is just under $9,500 to get that system upgraded and where it needs to be. So another hot topic that I did some research on, the GPS monitoring units that was installed in all the vehicles. After looking into this, our fleet size is not very big. It was a total of 30 vehicles across the board within the city. I really did some research into this, looking into the cost versus what we were getting for the service. For probably the initial start of that service, the department heads were given some information back on what the reports were being generated. After that time, there hasn't been anything that had been passed on to the department heads. Each one of our departments maybe have 3 to 5 vehicles in it. The department heads all know where those vehicles are at and everything like that. So with that being said, that service was costing us $568.50 a month to have that service. Over the 2-year period, it has been over $13,644 that we spent, and we really received nothing out of it. Wow. I have initiated canceling that service. I cannot see paying that kind of money when we're not getting any real reporting out of it. Our department heads are doing a great job of taking care of their maintenance, they know where their vehicles are at. If we were in a situation where we had a central maintenance division that took care of all of our vehicles, and this was being used for rotating maintenance purposes, things of that sort, it might be more well worthwhile, but right now I don't see it being worthwhile. So with that, I've been contacted by a representative for Dunkin' Donuts. The questions I've been asked, and I'm looking into it, is on the annexation of the property. Part of the agreement was that they signed was for the properties to be annexed into the city. So as I get more information on the status of that, I can report more on that, and I will report back to them as well. That was something that just came up towards the end of last week. So they have seen preliminary drawings, architectural drawings of what they're proposing. Nothing in great detail as far as the utility side and things of that, but renderings of the building, things of that. So they're wanting to get moving on this. So I'll be working on that to get the information they requested for that annexation. I've been in contact with Julie Lemon on the Easter egg hunt. trying to help her out with some things on that. So I'll be in contact with her again early next week with some more stuff on that, getting that moving forward. And lastly, the city manager's car was retrieved on February 22nd, so it is now back. Also, there were 5 keys, the fuel fob for the city yard, and as well as the security fob for this building were all returned. So with that's all I have. If anybody has any questions.
No?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mike. Going to move into approval of previous minutes, and that was from the regular meeting minutes from February 21st, 2024.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Persino,
Yes.
Mr. Rifner,
Yes.
Ms. Stemper,
Yes.
and Ms. Benitez.
Yes.
Pass 4-0.
Next, we move on to public hearings. Is ordinance 2024-07. And it is an ordinance amending the job class and pay grade and hourly wage rate schedules A and B for positions within the Public Works Department and the Finance Department.
I'll make the motion. Oh, wait a minute, it's a hearing.
Nope,
Never mind, sorry.
Nope. All right. Going to move on next to ordinance 2024-08, which is an ordinance establishing the rate of pay for the intern city manager. Any discussion?
Nope.
No discussion? Call the roll.
We can just move on into
move on.
business, yes.
Next, we have unfinished business. Ordinance 2024-07, which is an ordinance amending the job class and pay grade and hourly wage rate schedules A and B, the position within the Public Works Department and the Finance Department.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Rufner, Ms. Stemper. Discussion.
I'll second.
Discussion?
Discussion.
Just
Ms.
real quick, if you didn't catch it at the last meeting, a lot of this is almost a formality of playing catch-up. If you go back to last year, when the last round of adjustments and everything came around, the finance department was left out totally. So the utility departments, everybody was realigned under the new structure. Everybody within what I would consider the pay bands where I work, but everything was structured out and put everybody on a competitive level. Well, finance department was left out of that. So they were, this is incorporating them back in and establishing one basic set standard as far as pay goes. Anything else you want to add to that, Mike?
No, just to agree with you, the finance / utility departments were overlooked when those adjustments were made. And then the one final thing is in the utility departments, there had been a creation of the crew chief position, and those positions had been filled, so that this is now just getting it on paper, so that everything is in line, everything is in the same Schedule A, Schedule B of the jobs.
Mr. Rufner?
Yes.
Ms. Stempert?
Yes.
Ms. Benitez?
Yes.
Ms. Persino?
Yes.
Pass 4-0.
Next, we have ordinance 2024-08, which is an ordinance establishing the rate of pay for the interim city manager.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Ms. Stempert and Ms. Benitez? Discussion?
Oh, wait. Do I want to amend, or do I want to make a motion to make it retroactive to make a motion to make it effective for 1/26/2024?
I believe an amendment would be necessary to interlineate that line. Does that make the most sense?
Yes, if it's not currently in there.
It's not. So can I make a motion to amend, to add, to make the rate of pay, the salary retroactive to 1/26/2024?
Second.
Retroactive to, I'm sorry,
1/26/2024.
4, seconded by Ms. Benitez. Any discussion on the amendment? Roll call to amend. Ms. Benitez?
Yes.
Ms. Persino?
Yes.
Mr. Rufner?
Yes.
Ms. Stempert?
Yes.
Next may be a motion to adopt as amended.
I'll make the motion to adopt as amended.
Second.
Ms. Benitez. Any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Stempert?
Yes.
Mr. Rufner?
Yes.
Ms. Persino?
Yes.
Ms. Benitez?
Yes.
If I may, this would go to a third reading at the next regular meeting. Third and final reading as amended. Thank you.
All right, new business. It's a motion to request the legal department to gather proposals for a full forensic audit of the city of Newton Falls to be presented to council at the next regular Newton Falls City Council meeting, currently scheduled for March 20th, 2024 at 6 p.m.
I'll make the motion to move that.
Second.
Ms. Stempert, Ms. Benitez.
Discussion? Anyone? Please.
Kind of more of a question, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Libyan, is that a reasonable date for returning of information to council? I mean, I know this appears and can turn into quite a heavy lift. So,
It could be done. I guess I just have it'll help clarify matters if I can appreciate the scope of it, I mean, and the timeframe in which you would like an audit to examine, because I think those two pieces of information will be necessary to acquire the appropriate professionals to weigh in and give an indication of what they would charge to do that.
May I interject?
Please.
I would recommend that you just seek proposals. Let them present a scope, and a price for what they would suggest doing for this community. I think that's probably the best way to go about this. I mean, you're seeking out the people that are into this type of stuff, and they might all have a different type of agenda for what they think they should be looked at. That way you can look at all the proposals. This is only one way to go about this, but then that locks you into that proposal specifically. Another option might be, maybe you got a couple of things you specifically want looked at. So if you're going to seeking a proposal, you should consider asking them to present a proposal, but then maybe also include that you'd like to include a couple of specific items yourself. And maybe between tonight and when you've generated that ad, council can make that communication to Mike, and somehow they can get that information to you. So.
Very good.
All right, public comments. Oh, I'm sorry.
Gonna vote.
Oh, we got to
Call the roll. Ms. Stimpert,
Yes.
Ms. Benitez,
Yes.
Ms. Persino,
Yes.
Mr. Rufner.
yes.
Now we can do the public comments. It's getting to that part of the evening. Limited to 3 minutes. Right.
Rick Erlin, 1009 Wood Glen, Newton Falls. I had a couple things. Saturday from 2 until 9, 444 The People will be sponsoring their Easter Bingo fundraiser. And Sunday from 10 to 1, we will have the Bunny Brunch. And all the students at the Bunny Brunch and all the kids who come to the Bunny Brunch and have bought tickets will receive a pair of special Eclipse glasses so that they can enjoy the special event. With that being said, I had a question on your ad hoc committee and why you're letting the council vote and be counted as quorum. In the charter, it reads, any standing or ad hoc committee of council shall be comprised of 2 voting members of council unless otherwise specified by the city charter. It is limited to its powers as an arm of the council and the responsibilities specific and recommends back to the council. In other words, the ad hoc committee, the council is not counted. As the same as it says right here in the standing committees. They don't make up a quorum, and they can't vote. As it says right in the charter. Again, I'm quoting 121.03. They mean by that, when they say that the 2 council people that must be voting are voting members of council. Not the mayor, but voting members of council. And this has been already discussed in 2019, and then before then by Ricky Swartz, law director, and also by another attorney. That's the reason for the two council members. As you all know, a standing committee has a council member present and a alternate. The ad hoc committee, you do not count a quorum by council members. That is not correct. And a council member cannot vote on an ad hoc committee or a standing committee. We all know the standing committee, apparently it was mixed up with the ad hoc. So if you're doing that, you're doing it incorrectly. The goals seem to be very noble, but you're doing it incorrectly. If we could do that, a committee such as Parks and Rec would never, they'd always have a quorum. Their standing committee, they'd always be a quorum because there'd be two council members there, the alternate and the regular council member. So you have to be careful and check that with the charter because it is incorrect. Thank you very much.
Brian Kropp, 247 Elizabeth Street. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't really have anything to say, but I wanted to piggyback off what one of the other public comments recently just was. If anybody wants to participate in anything that the group that he's promoting, just make sure you use checks or credit card or something with a receipt. Cash is not advisable. Just want to throw that out there for the public to hear. Cash probably isn't a good idea. Don't give random people cash money. Thanks. Have a good night, guys.
Anybody else? All right, ready for the closing remarks? I have no closing remarks. Council?
I have none. I have no more closing
Julie?
remarks.
I have nothing.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody that applied for the TIB board. Every single one of you were wonderful people. It was a hard decision. Again, the next police service ad hoc committee is Thursday, April 4th at 6 p.m. The next community service activities committee meeting is March 11th, 6 p.m. I hope you guys come out to that one so we can hear your ideas on the solar eclipse event. And March 30th is the Arlington Field, the first annual Sheriff Sullivan Easter egg hunt at noon. And that's all I got.
I have nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Housley, do you have anything?
I have nothing, Mayor.
Mr. Lembian?
No,
do
sir.
You
Thank
have
you.
anything? Mr. City Manager, do you have anything, sir?
No, sir.
All right. All right, this meeting is.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Yes, I'm ready.
Motion to adjourn.
It's always in a hurry.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have you put the gavel over here, and I will give it to you when it's time for you to use it,
I will
okay?
do that the next time, Ms. Joy. All right. Ready?
Motion?
No,
Motion to
Motion to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Ms. Stempert, who's the second?
I will second.
Mr. Rufner. Then we'll call the roll. Ms. Benitez?
Yes.
Ms. Persino?
Yes.
Mr. Rufner?
Yes.
Ms. Stempert?
Yes.
And the mayor.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
Meeting adjourned.
All right.